to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning. You're good.
And welcome into Cody Talks NFL. We're already at week 6, guys, just a couple weeks from the midpoint season of the year. This season's flying by, especially with how 2020's been. Today's episode is a little different. We did not have a Thursday night game. I was telling Rob right before we went live, it was weird last night because I always work on the Thursday nights and watch the game. But there was no football game last night, so I didn't know what to do with myself. I mean, there was a college football game I watched a little bit. Arch Manning was balling out on ESPN2 last night, so there's a future fantasy football pick for you guys. But I'm going to go ahead and get into the episode. I'm actually just going to talk about the bye quicks. Then I'm going to go into the Sunday game previews and the Monday game previews. As far as the bye teams, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Seattle Seahawks, there was no major news that came out throughout the week for them. And then the Las Vegas Raiders, almost said Oakland there. Carl Nassib, he did break his toe against the Chiefs. His timetable, it's a little unclear right now as far as out, but obviously having that bye week gives him a good chance to return sooner than later. And then the Saints, this one's kind of interesting because the getting fans into their games, but the New Orleans mayor is currently not allowing that to happen. So they are actually talking to LSU officials over at Baton Rouge. So you could see LSU's college football stadium host game at some point this season. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because it'll be kind of weird to see them in those Saints black uniforms at an open air stadium like that. And then, so those are the 4 teams on the bye: Los Angeles Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders, New Orleans Saints, and the Seattle Seahawks. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into the preview for the Sunday games. As always, I'm going to start with the 1 p.m. games, and then I'm going to go to the 4 p.m. games. Go on what's going to be a 3-time a season rant. I hate the schedule this week, NFL. This is so stupid. You have all these games at the 1 p.m. time, and then you only have 2 games at the 4 p.m. time. Those 2 games are the Packers and Buccaneers. Great game, right? All eyes on that. Okay, what's the other game I can maybe throw on my side TV? The Jets and Dolphins with Joe Flacco playing quarterback. Like, what are we doing here? Like, how do you not shift one of these 1 p.m. games or 2 of those 1 p.m. games to the 4 p.m. slot? Because honestly, too, you just ruin the red zone product, because as soon as all the beginning games are off, I'm turning off red zone and I'm just going to have a game on each channel. So that's my little rant. I think I've already done it once this season. I'm probably going to do it again at some point again this year. It's just a personal problem I have with the NFL schedule makers. So let me go ahead and get into this. We're going to start with the game we were supposed to get last week that got postponed to this week, which is the Denver Broncos are traveling out to New England to face the Patriots. As far as a news note, for those that might have missed this, the Broncos running back Melvin Gordon, he got charged earlier this week. This is up in the air as far as if he's going to play or not this week. Vic Fangio won't comment on it. Now, based on the new CBA, he could get a 3 something down the line, as he would have to let this process play out in the court. So he could potentially get suspended. But I think yesterday in the fantasy voyage, that's something we don't see happening, because I think the court dates December. But it is possible you could self-discipline him, maybe hold him out a quarter, a half, something like that, or he could play because it is the NFL. I'm gonna go ahead and keep on moving. Got so far throughout the week. I'll keep on the Broncos side. KJ Hamler and those guys have not practiced this week. Noah Fant's been limited with the ankle, and Mike Purcell has been limited with the knee. Then you switch over to the Patriots side. Adam Butler He's been limited with a shoulder. Julian Edelman limited with a knee. Shaq Mason has been limited with a calf injury, as well as Isaiah Wilson with a calf injury. So how's this game going to go? It does also look like, I didn't put it in the script, but people probably already seen Cam Newton and Stephon Gilmore were at practice today. They were able to pass those negative tests and get so we got Cam back. So I kind of feel like this is going to be a bounce back, get right type of game for the Patriots after their sudden bye. The Denver defense, they're still pretty banged up. They're kind of, I think they're still missing some pieces up front. So, I mean, Jarrell Casey got hurt, I believe, in their last matchup. So I think Cam and that running game, they will get going throughout the day. And then the passing attack, this is kind of where they can maybe work out some kinks in the passing attack secondary. Sure, they got Justin Simmons, but they're down to like a couple rookies starting back in the back end. So I could see maybe them trying to get N'Keal Harry going, or maybe try to get those young tight ends going and try to establish their identity on offense for the rest of the season. So yeah, I think they're going to be able to move the ball pretty easily. They're going to have opportunities for field goals and touchdowns. And then if you switch sides of the ball too, with Dennis getting Drew Lock back, that obviously helps the quarterback position. But they're still missing quite a few people. I mean, they're depending on like a Jerry Jeudy and a Tim Patrick at the wide receiver position. We'll see if Noah Fant can go. We'll see what happens with Melvin Gordon. But I mean, I'll say this: New England has struggled to stop the run at times this year. So if Melvin Gordon plays, like him and Phillip Lindsay could maybe bounce back off each other and actually get a good ground game going. Obviously, though, the worries for me, though, where I think the Broncos will stall is they have an all right offense. So I think the Bill Belichick with his mind will be able to scheme up pass rushes, which could lead to sacks and turnovers. And then they already got a pretty solid secondary. Stephon Gilmore's back. I would not be surprised if they try to stick Judy and try to let rest of the unproven. I mean, Tim Patrick's okay, but let the rest of the unproven wide receivers beat them. I think there's going to be turnovers there, and plus, I think I said this yesterday. You're talking about Drew Lock, who's in his career start. So basically, he's still a rookie at this point. Young rookie quarterbacks have a bad history in Foxborough. Don't really see that changing with Drew Lock. I think Deshaun Watson's the only young quarterback ever to go up to Foxborough and do well in his first start against Bill Belichick. So I think it's going to be a rough afternoon for Drew Lock in his return from his injury. I think the Patriots find a way to win. Maybe the Broncos keep it interesting for 3 quarters, but I think New England does pull away at some point. I say they win by 10 points. I could see them winning like a 20. I'll say like a 28, actually 11, 28-17. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next matchup. We got Houston traveling to Tennessee to face the Titans. Now, a little note on the Titans. I think it was Wednesday. Their outside linebacker / pass rusher, Kamale always butcher his name. He was requested a trade, so that did happen. They traded him and a 2021 7th-round pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 2021 6th-round pick. So Jaguars pick up a piece and a 7th-round pick, and the Titans are getting a 6th-round pick back. So let's go ahead and dive into these injury reports. I'm actually going to start with the Texans because the Titans is kind of ridiculous. Jordan Akins, these following 5 players have been limited for the Texans. Jordan Akins with an ankle and concussion, Dylan Cole with a knee, Buddy Howell with a hamstring, Peter Colombi with a hamstring, and Laramie Tunsil with a shoulder. And then I'm going to go through this long laundry list. I know the Titans got an impressive win, but I guess they kind of left that Tuesday night game pretty banged up. So let me go ahead and get into this. These following 5 players have not practiced. A.J. Brown, he has not practiced with a knee. Jadeveon Clowney with a knee illness. Now, Darrington Evans is listed with a hamstring, but I think the plan is they're putting him on IR. Again, I'll tell you if you're a first-time listener, I always will mention if they're going IR, but the season's done, I'll mention that. Remember, they're going on IR. They have the potential to return in the next 3 weeks. So their rookie running back, I believe, is going to end up on IR at some point this week. Daquan Jones with a foot injury. Chris Milton with a foot injury. Now I can't even, I think this is like 10 to 12 guys that have been limited this week for Tennessee. Nick Zubnar, I think that's how you say it, with a shoulder. Chris Jackson with a hamstring. Jonathan Joseph with a hamstring. Dennis Kelly with a groin. Taylor Lewan with a shoulder. Jeremy McNichols with a rib injury. Joshua Laryl Murchison with an ankle injury, Jonnu Smith with a quad injury, Kenny Vaccaro with a hamstring and calf injury, Nick Westbrook Keene with a hamstring injury, and Malcolm Butler's been limited with a quad. So Tennessee, even though they were pretty fresh this past week and beat up on the Bills on Tuesday night, they are going to be pretty banged up heading into this matchup with the Texans. But I think they can keep things rolling, though, because they just came off that game a couple 5 days ago. They can kind of stick with what worked there. And I know A.J. Brown has not practiced this week, but I think he's kind of dealing with an ailment that's going to bother him throughout the year. So I think it's more of a resting him coming off a Tuesday night game. Let's just make sure he can go on Sunday, because he did look pretty solid this past Tuesday night. So as far as I think how it's going to work, I mean, the Texas defense, it's not that great at stopping the run. So I could see a Derrick Henry type of game. Let them lean on him heavily. And then I'm not a big believer at all, really, outside Justin Reed and that Texans secondary. So I think they'll be able to pick them apart through the air with like a Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis, barring him staying healthy, and any of their other pieces as well. And they'll be able to find ways to get in the end zone and be in field goal position throughout the day. And then you switch the side of the ball. Deshaun Watson and the Texans finally got their first win. The offense looked like it was gelling between him and Brandon Cooks. They were able to put up points and put up yardage last week. But again, that was going against that Jacksonville defense. The Titans got a pretty good defense when they're all healthy. I believe they're getting Jeffrey Simmons back this week, so that's going to help the interior of their line. I think they're going to be able to find ways to get pressure. This is kind of also a Jadeveon Clowney revenge game. I don't think the Seahawks played the Texans last year, so I think this might be his first game playing in Houston since he left. So I know he's going to want to ball out and get after Deshaun all day. So I think they're going to be able to kind of try to bottle him up between Jeffrey Simmons and Jadeveon Clowney. And then barring any other collapses in the secondary, they should be able to hold their own. But I do think there will be moments, though, where Watson does pick them apart and he finds a ways to get touchdowns. This is do usually battle back and forth whenever they face each other every year. But I think the Titans, with them, Romeo Crennel, he got that first win for him last week, but at the end of the day, he is an interim head coach. Mike Vrabel worked with him all those years ago in Houston, so he understands his tendencies as a defensive coordinator. So I think Mike Vrabel is just going to find a way to get his team to find the victory. I think they are the better coach team, so I'm going to lean towards them. But I do think maybe Deshaun Watson and the Texans keep it interesting up until the fourth quarter. I say the Titans win like a 28-24 type of win for Tennessee. And then I'm going to go to this next game. We got Cleveland traveling out to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. And then, no one. I was trying to figure out if I did not do the Steelers injury report. It's because I couldn't find it, because the Browns are super banged up. There is no news on either team. But yeah, let's go with this laundry list of injuries for Cleveland. These following 6 players have not practiced throughout the week: Ronnie Harrison with a concussion, Caro Joseph with a hamstring, Jarvis Landry with a hip and ribs, Jacob Phillips with a knee, Wyatt Teller with a calf, and OBJ with an illness. And then these guys have not practiced, or these following players have been limited in practice: Tay Davis with an elbow, Kareem Hunt with a thigh, Baker Mayfield with a chest, Larry Ogunjobi with an abdomen, and J.C. Treader with a knee, and Olivier Vernon with a groin. Then you switch to Pittsburgh. They're relatively healthy. David DeCastro hasn't practiced with a rib injury, and then Deontay Johnson has been limited with a back injury. So I could already tell you Right now, I'm definitely leaning towards the Steelers based on the injury report with how banged up Cleveland is heading into this matchup, and it's going to be on the road. And now that these some of these stadiums, including Pittsburgh, are starting to allow a small amount of fans into the stadium, I think that does count. We can start leaning towards the whole home field advantage thing because some of these fans, no matter if it's just 5,000 of them, they're getting loud. It's kind of awesome to see. So yeah, I'll start with Pittsburgh on the offense. We saw them go off with Chase Claypool last night, and I really don't think they're going to miss a beat against the banged up Cleveland defense. Cleveland's got some key pieces, but they're still missing like Greedy Williams is on IR now. So and then you're talking about Ronnie Harrison and the other safety. They're both on the injury report as well. So I think Big Ben's going to find ways to get the ball to like Eric Ebron throughout the day. All three or four, they're his receivers based on. We'll see what happens with Deontay Johnson if he's good to go. But obviously the thing I haven't talked about, the matchup to watch. I know the quarterback's not going to be on the field, but this is Myles Garrett's first game against the Steelers since his suspension. So, him and going against Pouncey and all those boys that they kind of battled out last year. We'll be interested to see if anything plays out throughout the game. I know Kareem Hunt said this game's for Myles, so it seems like the Browns are kind of using that as a chip of motivation for them. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to get it done. We'll see. And switching sides of the ball with the offense, you're talking about Baker Mayfield. He said he's going to play through it. He said Mama didn't raise no wuss. So we'll see if Baker can come out and ball out. He should have OBJ. OBJ's just kind of deal with like a flu. It's not what you think it is. I'll say that if it is. But then Jarvis Landry hasn't practiced all week, but I think he's going to be good to go. I think he's actually done this the last couple weeks. But still, they're pretty banged up on offense. Kareem Hunt's been limited this week. I do think they might be able to find ways to move the ball through the air. But the biggest key is if they're going to be able to find any leverage on the ground game, get any push against that great defensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and how long they can protect Baker. Because they do have a good, solid offensive line, but they're going against one of the better ferocious defensive fronts in the NFL right now. So I think it's going to be an up and down game for that Cleveland offense. I do think it's going to be a close game. I do think Cleveland might have a chance to pull it off on the end. I do think these teams split the series when it's all said and done. But with the Steelers being the healthier team and they're playing in Pittsburgh, I'm taking the Steelers to pull off a win in the fourth quarter. They end up winning by I'd say they win like a 31-27 type of win for the Steelers. And then let's go on to the next matchup. We got Baltimore traveling out to Philly to face the Eagles. As far as news, we don't got any major news on either team. And then as far as the Ravens injury report, these two players have not practiced this week. Anthony Levine with the abdomen and Derek Wolfe with a neck and concussion. And these four players have been limited in practice for the Ravens. Chris Moore with a finger and thigh, Marcus Peters with a thigh, Tyree Phillips with a shoulder, and Jimmy Smith with a knee. And then taking a look at the Eagles report, these four players have not practiced this week. Marcus Epps with ribs, Lane Johnson with an ankle, Matt Pryor with an illness, and then Duke Riley with ribs. And then there's a number of players that have been limited. It looks like actually only 5 for the Eagles. Deshaun Jackson with a hamstring, Alshon Jeffrey with a foot, Avonte Maddox with an ankle, Richard Rodgers with a neck, and Darius Slay with a concussion. And then as far as this game, I'll start with the Eagles offense. I mean, they kind of got things going. They got Travis Fulgham going last week, but they are still kind of an up and down offense. They still fail to protect Carson Wentz and give him enough time to throw the ball because of all the injuries up front. So the way I do view this is that the Baltimore defensive front with the Calais Campbell, it looks like they will be missing Derek Wolfe. They still got Matthew Judon and Brandon Williams, all those guys up front, which is allowing a guy like Patrick Queen to feast back there. That's kind of starting to take a lead in the defensive rookie of honors. So with that being said, I think they're going to get after Carson all day and there's tons of sack potential. As long as Marcus Peters and Jimmy Smith are good to go on game day, there's turnover potential for that Ravens defense. I know Travis Fulgham's a great story, but now that he's got to go against a Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, a Jimmy Smith. He's got those guys lined across from them. I'm not going to bet on Deshaun Jackson or Alshon Jeffrey playing to help them out. We've seen them practice in a limited form, but they have yet to come back quite yet. And on top of that, Zach Ertz, I talked about it yesterday on the Fantasy Voyage. He just looks like he's not really giving out full effort. So I just don't really trust this Philly offense to consistently produce throughout the day. Now with that being said, I do maybe they find a way to get a touchdown or two. But the only way I could see that happening is that they somehow get that ground game going and Miles Sanders kind of chews up that defensive front and wears them down throughout the game, so that can open up things for the play action. But I need to see that done by that Philly offense before I can believe in it. And then you switch sides of the ball. Baltimore's offense, they're really good at running the ball, but they have been kind of having some struggles in the passing attack quite lately. But I don't think that should change really much against the Eagles. Eagles got a good defensive front, but that's more, I think they can get after him in the pass. I think the Ravens will be able to run the ball on them. The linebackers are one of the group in Philly is one of the worst in the NFL right now. And then outside Darius Slay, they really don't got much in the secondary. I mean, Nicole Roby-Coleman's there. He's been doing all right this year. So I think this is going to be a field day, honestly, for the Ravens offense. I think they're going to get the running game going with all three backs, Lamar Jackson, and then throughout the day, they're just going to find holes with Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, and they're going to find ways to put up touchdowns. I honestly think the Ravens are going to beat the Eagles. I feel like they should beat them pretty soundly, but I'll say this. This game is in Philly, and then like I mentioned earlier, I actually think I think Philly does get the fans back in this game. Maybe it's the next home game, but I think it's this one. So I'll give Philly a chance. Maybe the crowd noise gets them involved, but also just reminding me, look at the injury, Johnson being out too. That's going to make that offense, if he's out, he hasn't practiced all week. He's kind of been struggling with this ankle injury all year, but if he is definitely ruled out, like I don't give them much of a chance, but maybe they keep it a game till the fourth quarter. But I think the Ravens win by at least a touchdown. I can see the Ravens winning like a 28-21 type of win on Sunday. And then next game is Washington football team. They're heading up to New York to face the Giants. Let's go ahead and get into this injury reports. The football team, this one's kind of been weird since he's been benched. He hasn't been at the facility. I think I actually did see he's back at practice today before me and Rob hopped on this. But Dwayne Haskins has been out all week with an illness. Joshua Garnett with an illness, and then Greg Stroman with a foot. And then as far as the Giants side of the ball, these following four players have been limited. Kyler Fackrell with an ankle, Dexter Lawrence with a knee, Jabril Peppers with an ankle, and Darius Slayton with a foot. Now, it's kind of hard for me to predict this game because both teams are pretty bad, and we have no really clue what offensive identity that both teams have. I think the Washington does have a good defensive front. Their secondary is kind of hit and miss at pieces. Giants have some pieces too on their defense they've been playing well with, but they just can't get any support from the offense because the offense can't find the end zone for whatever reason. But let's just kind of look at the matchups right now. I mean, Giants offense, their offensive line is young and going through extreme growing pains right now. Andrew Thomas's play has been up and down throughout the year. And then now he's got to go against a Chase Claypool and, a Montez Sweat who's flying all over the field, Daron Payne. So I think that offensive line is going to have their problems on Sunday. I think Daniel Jones will be kind of running for his life at moments. And luckily he does have the mobility to stretch out plays. On the turnovers, I know he didn't have an interception last week, but he still had a fumble. So he needs to play turnover free if the Giants want to win their first game. on Sunday. He still, I mean, I think Darius Slayton will push through it. He's still got Darius Slayton. I think this is a great game for Evan Ingram to go off because Washington's linebackers aren't really great for their coverage. That's kind of one of the weaker points of the Washington defense right now. So I think Evan Ingram could get going. It's gonna be on Daniel Jones to win this game. I think if he does not commit a turnover, they're gonna win. But if Chase Claypool and them are getting after him all day, he's getting sacked, getting frustrated, forcing balls, dropping balls on the ground. It's going to be a long day for the Giants offense. But then you switch sides of the ball. I also don't think the Washington football team's offense matches up well against this New York defense. Washington's offensive line, and by the way, Kyle Allen is expected to start this week, even though we saw the great story about Alex Smith. But behind that line, I don't know if Alex Smith should be out there. I cringed every time he got sacked last week. But the Washington offensive line has been awful the last couple weeks. And then Dexter Lawrence and what's that kid's name? Man, the other D tackle with the hair, Leonard Williams. I drew a blank there. Leonard Williams, they've actually been a pretty solid duo throughout the season. I think they're going to eat up the middle of that offensive line, which is going to lead to potential turnovers by collapsing the pocket if guys can come in off the edge, like a Marcus Golden. And then on top of that, I don't know if that can maybe stifle the running game, the running attack with Antonio Gibson. So if they can't really struggle, if they can't really get the running game going, if they can't really protect Kyle Allen and he's always having to run all over the place, I think it's going to lead to problems for that offense. And then if you look at their passing attack, the only proven guy we can say that's proven himself is Scary Terry McLaurin. Well, then you look at the Giants defense and they got James Bradberry, and you look at the stats. James Bradberry has been one of the better corners this year, and he's really great on as far as sticking man-to-man coverage. So if the Giants would choose to go that route, they could stick James Bradberry on him. They could even double team McLaurin if they want to and completely cut off him and force others to beat him. So basically, I think both offenses are going to struggle throughout the day. But I'm going to say this. I think Daniel Jones is a way more talented quarterback. He has shown flash potential in this league, while Kyle Allen has been in his better games. So I'm going to lead towards the better quarterback in this game. Giants have not won. They're bound to win a game at some point this season. If they were going to win a game, it would be against the football team. But I think it's going to be an ugly offensive game. One that you could, that's probably not going to be on the red zone as much on Sunday, especially with all these games getting played at this time. I think the Giants squeeze out a game because I think Daniel Jones can find one to three drives where he can get those ending in touchdowns. I'll say they win like a 17-13 win for the Giants. And then let's go to this next game. Atlanta is traveling out to Minnesota. Now, there was a little scare with the Falcons of a potential outbreak. It does seem like they did get that under control. They are cleared to return to the building this week. So this game is looking like it's going on. I know me and Rob mentioned on the Fantasy Voyage, if you're owners of the Falcons or Vikings, you situation. Good news so far, but as we all know with this whole pandemic, that we could find out something new at any moment on any day. So just keep an eye out on that if you are a fantasy football owner of any Falcons or Vikings. Let's go through this injury report. Both teams are pretty banged up heading into this. Julio Jones has not practiced with a hamstring. Jalen Hawkins with a concussion. And then these number of players have been limited for Atlanta. Keanu Neal with a hamstring, Dante Fowler with the ankle, Hayden Hurst with the back, Russell Gage with a shoulder, Grady Jarrett with a back, Tack McKinley with a groin, and Foy Ulakon with a knee. And then looking at the Vikings injury report, they have 5 guys that haven't practiced this week. Dalvin Cook with a groin. It does sound like he's expected to miss. KJ Osborne with a hamstring, Holton Hill with a foot, Chris Boyd with a hamstring, Drew Samia with a wrist, and then Jaleel Johnson has been limited with a back injury. how will this go? Let's start with the Vikings. Even though they might be missing Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison is good enough to keep the offensive flowing through the running attack. They still got a Justin Jefferson and an Adam Thielen. We saw Irv Smith kind of break out this past Sunday night, and they still got the veteran Kyle Rudolph. And that Atlanta defense is not only awful, not only it's awful, but they got all these guys banged up. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this up too. They just fired Dan Quinn last Sunday, and then they are now just getting in the facility today for the first time all week. Now, I understand that the Titans went like 2 weeks without practicing and then got together like the Sunday or Saturday before the game and did well. This is a different story. It's an interim head coach that hasn't. I mean, I'm sure they're holding Zoom meetings, but he hasn't actually had to conduct the practice yet. So I think that's going to linger not only on the field to their defense, but probably potentially their offense. But the offense is they're dealing with Hayden Hurst being limited, and Julio Jones might not play as well. But sticking to that side of the ball, what I'm saying is I think there's going to be a lot of mental mistakes by the Atlanta defense that's already banged up and has already been playing pretty terrible this year. So I think the Vikings offense is going to move the ball pretty easily throughout the day, and they're going to find ways to put the ball in the end zone. And you switch sides of the ball, they're still going through their growing pains at the cornerback position, but they still got Yannick Ngakoue. I think he's going to be able to get after Matt Ryan all day. Matt Ryan's been playing up and down throughout the year, and if he's out of Julio, if Hayden Hurst is less than 100%, or Russell Gage is less than 100%, I think this offense is going to stall throughout the day. I do think they will have their moments, though, where they put up points. I can kind of see this getting in a shootout potential because, there's always the narrative, too. They just fired their coach, so maybe the interim head coach does get them fired up to get their first win this year. So I'll give them a chance. Maybe they're still in it in the fourth quarter. But like I said, I think there's going to be too many mental mistakes with the lack of practice coming on the week that you just fired your head coach. So I think the Vikings will find a way to win. I say they win like a 5-27 type of win for the Vikings. Let me go on to the next game. We got Detroit against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go ahead and look at these injury reports. I got no news on either team. These four players have not practiced this past week for the Lions. Hunter Bryant with a hamstring and concussion. Desmond Trufant with a hamstring. Adrian Peterson with an illness. Frank Ragnow with a groin. And then these two players have been limited: Christian Jones with a knee and C.J. Moore with a calf. And then I'm looking at the Jaguars injury report. These four players haven't practiced this week. Avery Jones with an ankle and hamstring, Dakota Allen with a foot, DJ Chark with an ankle, Tyler Eifert with a neck. Then Josh Allen has been limited with a knee injury, Chris with a quad, and then Laviska Shenault also has been limited with a hamstring injury. So going on this game, this is an interesting. They're kind of like, if they're going to turn things around, this is the game they need to win. And then also, if you really want to point to this, if both coaches of these teams want to keep their jobs and go and turn things around and win and try to sneak into the playoffs, this is a game they need to win. Because I could see if a loss in this game could start one of these coaches on their path towards getting fired at some point year. Let me go ahead and get into this then. I think the biggest key though for me is I'm looking at the injury report, and I think the Jaguars offense is going to have some struggle opportunities on the day. If DJ Chark doesn't play, and then Laviska Shenault, if he's banged up with his hamstring, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to. Because I'll point back to that game, I think, against the Dolphins when the Jaguars lost. DJ Chark, I believe, was out of that game, and you just didn't see Gardner Minshew taking those deep shots, taking those shots to the end zone. He's kind of his go-to guy when it's crunch time. So if DJ Chark is not out there on the field, I think the Jaguars are going to have moments throughout the day where they're not getting those third down completions down to the red zone, but they're not finding ways to punch the ball in the end zone. Now, the ways they can move the ball is Detroit's defense struggles to stop the run. So if that's the case, if they can get James Robinson going and they can play the clock control and they can find ways to finish the drives with touchdowns, then I think that's the way they can find a way to win. But again, I just go back to that game where they were missing DJ Chark. The offense just did not look the same when Gardner Minshew did not have DJ Chark in that game. And you switch sides of the ball. I think this is a perfect game for Matthew, just for us to see an old Matthew Stafford type of game. The Jaguars, their pass defense has been struggling against quarterbacks this year. Most quarterbacks are throwing over 70% on them and having some of their better games of the 2020 season. So I think this is an opportunity for Matthew Stafford to get the ball to Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, Quintus Cephas, TJ Hawkinson, Jesse James. Maybe they get DeAndre Swift. Excuse me. Maybe they get DeAndre Swift out of the backfield going in the passing attack. And then this team's also coming off a bye too. So they're going to be rested up. They're going to have maybe a fresh outlook. They've been probably looking at the Jaguars for the last couple of weeks. So I just think the Lions are going to find ways. I think they're going to complete more drives with touchdowns compared to the Jaguars. I do think this is going to be a back and forth type of matchup, maybe who has the ball type at the end of the day, which is why I'm going to actually pick the Lions. They got Matthew Stafford, the better quarterback. I really have this feeling that G.J. Chark's not going to play this week. And if that does happen, that's going to hurt their chances of winning. And I think that's going to lead to them not getting as many touchdowns as the Lions can. So I'm going to pick the Lions to win like a 31 to, let's say they win by a field goal, 31-28 type of win for the Lions. And then we're going to go on to a game that we might not get, unfortunately, this week, but I'm still going to give the preview and hold out optimism. Little quick note. So the Cincinnati Bengals are traveling out to Indianapolis to face the Colts. The Colts are holding virtual meetings today because there were a number of positive tests for the Colts. Now, these aren't confirmed positive tests, so there's a potential these rounds could be like what we saw this, I believe, on Wednesday. Had a number of positive tests, and it turned out it was majority of them were false positive, and the only positive guy was a coach. And then it all comes down to contact tracing. So they have protocols to be able to hopefully get around, quarantine the right people, and keep these games and keep the schedule going on going forward. I believe we will find out at some point today whether these tests were confirmed positive or not. And if I saw on Twitter right, I think the Colts and the Bengals have the same bye week later on in the season. So if they do have to switch it, if they have to postpone this game, it's going to be an easy switch for the NFL. But let's hold out hope. They're false positives. Everybody's okay, and we can get this game in the schedule this week. I'm going to go ahead, though, really quick on injuries. Let's assume this game's good to go. Sam Hubbard for the Bengals, he has been placed on IR. And then Darius Phillips hasn't practiced with the shoulder. Other than that, the Bengals are pretty relatively healthy entering the 5 guys that haven't practiced this week. Mo Alley Cox with a knee, Danico Autry with a knee and ankle, Darius Leonard with a knee, Jordan Wilkins with a calf, Chaz Green with a back, and then Justin Houston has been limited with a hip. Even with all those injuries, assuming the game goes on, I think this is a get-right type of game for the Colts after struggling offensively against the Browns last week. I think this could be a breakout game for Jonathan Taylor. The Bengals defense does struggle to stop the run. There are more and more guys from their defensive front that started this season have been going on IR over the last couple weeks. So I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a great day. I think that leads to play action passes, which can open up things for T.Y. Hilton. Maybe a Trey Burton gets involved. Maybe we see a classic Jack Doyle game if Mo Alley Cox has to miss for any reason. I do think this is a game where they lean heavily on the run, and they just try to play a clean and efficient game for once. Well, not for once. Anytime we get a clean and efficient game from Phillip Rivers, that's when the Colts have won this year. So I think the offense is going to move the ball, but it's going to come down to their red zone conversion. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL converting red zones opportunities. So that's where they have to put the things together. And I think the Bengals are a team where they can work on those things when they get to the red zone. Switch sides of the ball. Joe Burrow coming off a rough performance against a very good Ravens defense, and now he's going against a very defense this year. He just struggles to get any protection. It's not even his fault. I saw him say he needs to get the ball out of his hands at a quicker rate. And then I saw somebody point out he's got the seventh fastest ball out of his hands for a quarterback this year. So like it's on his offensive line. They can't even give him like 2 seconds to throw the ball. So I think a DeForest Buckner, a Justin Houston, they're going to be able to get after him, Alqueen Muhammad. And then even if Darius Leonard's out, we saw Bobby Okereke get his pick last week. They still got Anthony Walker Jr. As I say, as I'm willing to throw fisticuffs over, the Colts have one of the best, if not the best, linebacker group in the NFL. And then their secondary has been playing well. And we saw, I don't know what's going on with AJ Green. I don't know if you guys saw it. I saw it the day I was actually had that game on my screen on Sunday. And when Joe Burrow kind of airmailed the ball to him, like he kind of like didn't try to bat the ball down. Then he ran away from the tackle opportunity. So I don't know what's going on with AJ Green. T. Higgins, he's kind of been growing as the season goes along. But again, Colts got Xavier Rhodes, who's been playing great this year, and they got Rock Ya-Sin back from his little illness he went through a couple weeks ago. And then the two young safeties are playing well. So I think this is going to be another rough afternoon for Joe Burrow. He's probably going to get hit a lot, unfortunately. I just want him to stay healthy. So yeah, assuming this game goes on, I kind of think this is a get right. The Colts win by like 10 plus points type of game. I think they end up winning like, let's just say like a 31-17 type of win. And then let's go to this next matchup. We got Chicago traveling down to Carolina to face the Panthers. No news, but we can start with the injuries. Deion Bush for the Bears has not practiced with a hamstring, and then limited with a knee injury. And then as far as the Panthers front, Yetur Gross-Matos hasn't practiced this week with an ankle. Tyler Lawson with an illness. And then we got Brian Burns has been limited with a concussion. Dante Jackson with a toe. Zach Kerr with a toe. And then Curtis Samuel with a knee. So yeah, the Panthers, they've been one of the pleasant surprises this year. They're 3-2. They're tied at the top of the NFC South. Matt Rule's got them going. So we got a good test for them going against the Bears because, as much as that Bears offense is ugly, their defense is pretty good this year. And at the end of the day, they're 4-1, and they just beat, the Bucks, who a lot of people thought could be and it still could happen, could be a potential Super Bowl winner this year. So Bears are kind of gain more respect. The Panthers are starting to gain more respect. I think this is a good litmus test type of game for both teams. And then, so let's start with the Panthers. Their offense, they got Mike Davis. Mike Davis is going against the Bears, who the Bears released, I think, last year when they got David Montgomery. So it's kind of like a revenge game for him. He's going to want to get the ball going. But that Bears defense is pretty good against the run. And then they'll try to also get the passing attack going as well with, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and then we'll see if Curtis Samuel will play. I think they'll have moments where they're going to find holes in the Bears defense and they're going to be able to move the ball. But I also think the Bears are going to get after them. Khalil Mack's going to chase down Teddy a couple times, get a couple sacks. And if they can convert any turnovers, I think that's going to be the biggest key for the Bears to win this game. Now, when you switch sides of the ball, the Panthers defense, man, they're young, they're inexperienced, but they're growing as the season goes along, but they still really struggle to stop the run. And then Quan Short was placed on, I think, on IR this week. I think his season might be done. I forgot to find that last night. My bad. My apologies. But Yetur Gross-Matos hasn't practiced this week. Brian Burns limited with a concussion. Dante Jackson, their corner, has also been limited with a toe. So defense this week, I could see David Montgomery having a good day on the ground.
Kwan's is season long, just to let you know, Cody. It's ending.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you for finding that really quick for me. So yeah, I think David Montgomery's going to get going, and if they can get the pass game going, I mean not the pass game, if they can get the run game going, that's the biggest key. Like when we see like the last, the last couple, the last two matchups, the Bears got the win against the Bucks, but they lost against the Colts, and they really didn't do much. And Nick Foles has not really looked like a great Nick Foles, like what some Bears fans wanted to happen. But you got to look at the rushing attack. I think in both games they got like something stupid low, like 30 rushing yards. So I think the biggest key for Nick Foles' success is when he has a running game going. So I do think that David Montgomery is going to have a good day, which can make things easy on Nick Foles to get the ball to like a Allen Robinson, Mooney, Anthony Miller, Jimmy Graham. So I think the Bears are actually going to move the ball pretty easily against this Panthers team. And they're going to find ways to get touchdowns. And man, I want to pick the Panthers, honestly. I really do, because I like Matt Rule. I like what's going on in Carolina. But because of the injuries with this Panthers defense that they got going on, and the fact that they've kind of already struggled to stop the run, I mean, this is just a recipe for the Bears to have a good day on the offensive side of the ball. And I already like their defense to maybe make a couple stops against the Panthers. It's going to be a close one, though. I think maybe it comes down to a field goal. I'm going to pick the Bears, though, because something tells me this is a game they're going to win. I think the Bears win like a 24-21 type of game for Chicago. Now, we're going to go ahead and move into the second half. Just give me 1 second, guys. I need a little swig of this coffee. All right. So we got two 4 p.m. games. I already went on my rant about that, so I'm not going to do that again. So let's start with the worst game. New York Jets are traveling down to Miami to face the Dolphins. Now, there was a fake tweet going on around yesterday about Joe Douglas really considering to trade Quinnen Williams, because he's always kind of said, I would never, I'll always listen. I won't always. It was. And then I know Connor Rogers came out yesterday and said teams are calling about him. So they're trying to see if they can pull Quinnen Williams again from the Jets. Again, Douglas isn't really technically tied to Quinnen Williams because that was not his draft pick. That was a Mike McKagan draft pick. I still don't believe it's a right move. He's one of the few bright spots that you already got on a very bad roster that he's going to have to try to turn around in the coming years. But if he has an idea for post-Gase, for a post-Greg Williams defense, and he doesn't see Quinnen Williams fitting that defense, and a compelling offer comes along, I guess I could understand if that happens. I still lean towards they're not going to trade Quinnen Williams, because, I mean, you only can have so many blue-chip prospects on your roster, and he might be one of the 2 or 3. So let me go ahead and get into these injury reports. So Sam Darnold, like I kind of mentioned earlier when I was talking about this game, he's already been ruled out. So we are getting a Joe Jets team. These guys have been limited. Alex Lewis with a shoulder, Bless Austin with a calf, John Franklin Myers with a foot, Brashad Perryman with an ankle, and then Quinnen Williams also has been limited this week with a hamstring. Dolphins, they're kind of healthy right now. Devon Godchow with a biceps. He's listed as a DNP, but I'm pretty sure he's going to go on IR and this season's done for the year. Shaq Lawson has been limited with Smith with a knee, and then Kyle Van Noy has been limited with a groin. I think this is going to be, I won't say maybe, division. Nah, it's going to be easy. I'm not even going to try to go the division route. Miami's at home. We just saw them smack the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. So there's no reason why they should struggle with this Jets team. Ryan Fitzpatrick has played very well the last couple of weeks. Jets don't have any type of secondary. They don't have any type of pass rush. They really don't have any type of anything on defense. So I think Myles Gaskin and Matt Breida, Jordan Howard can get going on the running game. We can see Devontae Adams, Mike Gesicki, and Preston Williams having a good day in the air. I think they're going to find ways to get touchdowns all day. I really don't see how until the Jets are going to have to win a game. I'm probably literally going to pick against the Jets in every game this year. And then you got Joe Flacco, who didn't It's not like we impressed last week. Like, oh, is Joe Flacco back? That was never going to happen. And then, I think they're getting they have not activated him officially, but I think they're getting Denzel Mims back. But that, nah, I don't know, that first action against the Dolphins, who have, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Noah I. They got a good secondary pieces. Shaq Lawson, Kyle Van Noy can get after the quarterback. I don't like the Jets' offensive line right now, but I think they got Mekhi Becton back, so that should help on maybe at least one side, but the other side, I don't know about that. So I think there's sack and turnover potential. After they just smacked the 49ers, there's no way they can lose to the Jets, but it is the NFL. We've seen weird things, but I'm taking the Dolphins. They're at home by 10 at least. I'll keep it to the 10 points. I can see them winning by more, but I'll keep it to the 10 points because they win like a I don't know, 31-21 type win for the Dolphins. And then let's go to this next game. I can't wait for this game. We get a little Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady matchup. Let's go ahead and get into these injury reports. I'm going to start now. This is Green Bay will be in Tampa for this game. Tyler Irvin has not practiced for Green Bay with a wrist. Kevin King with a quadricep. Mercedes Lewis with a knee. And Montravius Adams with a neck. And then Rashawn Gary has been limited this week with an ankle injury. And then I'm going to take a look at the Bucs injury report. They're pretty banged up heading into this matchup. Khalil Davis hasn't practiced with an ankle, Jordan Whitehead with a knee, and then all these players have been limited for the Bucs. Levante David with a knee, Carlton Davis with an abdomen, Mike Evans with an ankle, Leonard Fournette with an ankle, Chris Godwin hamstring, Rob Gronkowski with a shoulder, LaShawn McCoy, Scotty Miller with a hip and groin, and Jason Pierre-Paul with a knee. Man, that's already making me lean towards Green Bay. Green Bay is coming off a bye week. Aaron Rodgers is playing at an MVP level right now. It doesn't matter who's out on the field. He's going to get the ball to them to get the touchdowns. And then he's going against the Bucs, but that key test, he is going against a pretty good Bucs defense. But keep in mind that Bucs defense has lost Vita Vea for the season. So I could see Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams having a good day on the ground against this defense. They that loss. But I think the biggest key, though, is going to be if they can stop Devontae Adams. Carlton Davis has been the guy that's kind of been sticking on the better receiver of the opposing team. But if he's kind of dealing with an abdomen injury, I think Devontae Adams is going to give him a heyday. I think Devontae Adams has the potential to go over 100 yards, get a. I think they're going to move the ball pretty easily, but the defense where maybe they can bend but don't break against this Aaron Rodgers team. But I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a pretty solid afternoon here in Raymond James Stadium. And then you switch sides of the ball. It's just the Bucs offense too, man. They've been so inconsistent. They're always dealing with injuries so far this year. And then who's on the injury report this week? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Gronkowski, McCoy, Scotty. All of them are limited, so that's a good sign that they could potentially play this week, but they're probably going to be less than 100%. I know that Chicago game, Mike Evans played, but he didn't look like himself because he's still dealing with that ankle injury. But with that being said, the Packers defense, they got a good set of pass rushers. They got a good corner in Jaire Alexander, other pieces in the secondary, but their linebacker group's not that great. So there are some holes that they can maybe have Tom Brady pick apart in the passing game, maybe with a Cameron Brate, maybe Gronkowski can get going since they don't really have any linebackers there in Green Bay. And then also who's Jaire Alexander? Is he going to stick on a Mike Evans? Is Chris Godwin going to play? Can he maybe work the slot and have things get open for him? So I think the Bucs offense, they're going to find their moments to move the ball throughout the day. But the biggest key is we saw what happened that second half against the Bears. Tristan Wirfs but he had his rookie moments in the second half. But most importantly, their left tackle that's blocking Tom Brady's blindside, Donovan Smith, he got pretty bad in that second half of the game. So if Preston Smith or Zadarius Smith line up against Donovan Smith, don't like the chances there. I where that Packers defense is going to be in Tom Brady's face all day. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think the Bucs are about to be 3-3 on the season. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers. I just think they find ways to convert more drives into touchdowns. Because the Bucs' offense is just too banged up, and they have been inconsistent all season long. So until something changes on that offensive side of the ball, I'm probably going to see that. I'm probably going to see that happening more and more. But yeah, I'm taking Green Bay in a win. I do think the Bucs will have an opportunity though to win at the end of the game. Green Bay wins like a 28-24 type of win. Are you kidding me?
Live streaming at its best, folks. You see Cody right there dealing with some stuff. Give us just a second. I'm going to hit you with a commercial. We will be right back. For over 100 years, the story has been written, ever changing and growing with each new chapter. The soul remains, though the characters change. Bigger, faster, stronger, smarter.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
So too grows our fandom. Start miles ahead. The 2020 Prospect Encyclopedia. September. Available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Blitzalytics.com.
And sorry about that, guys. For those that missed on the voyage, I had some friends over this past Sunday. At the end of the night, we were time. Somebody got knocked over, put a little dent in the wall. Apartment complex is supposed to come fix it. I literally texted them this morning saying, hey, what time are you guys going to come by? Because normally I do my between 10 and 12. They said it's after noon, after 12 good. I said, yes, that'll be perfect. So I can record this morning. And apparently, so I do apologize. They could have literally just waited about 15 minutes. They could have worked out fine. But let me just go ahead and get going on with this, guys. We got the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football traveling to San Francisco 49ers. No news on either team. As far as the injury report for the Rams, Ogbanaye. Rob, if you know this, you can help out. But Ogbanaye Okoro, I know that's not right. He hasn't practiced with an elbow. And then Micah Kaiser has been limited with a groin injury. And then these following four players have been not limited. These following four players have not practiced this week for the 49ers. Quan Alexander with an ankle injury. Dante Johnson with a groin. Marcel Harris with an ankle. And then Jeff Wilson with a calf. As far as how I kind of think this game's going to go, I think we could see a classic Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan type of matchup. It's going to be dependent on, do we have a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo? Because Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't healthy last year. You end up getting benched by the second half. I really don't even really trust Jimmy Garoppolo, even if he is healthy. Does have a healthier Deebo Samuel back. Brandon Ayuk's on the field. They got Raheem Mostert back. George Kittle. Pieces where they can Rams off defense a certain way. Deal with an Aaron Donald, but as long as they can maybe double team him, triple team him, and keep the rest of the defensive front off of Jimmy G's back, I think he will have his moments where maybe he can lead them on touchdown drives. Rams, their linebacker corps is still a work in progress, so George Kittle could have a good day. I think they're going to have to work the middle of that Rams offense success. And then you switch sides of the ball. The Rams, it's pretty much gelling right now. Sean McVay has retooled everything. He's got a number of backs that he can attack the defense with. And then he's going against a pretty weak defense right now, to be honest. San Francisco, they still got, Javon Kinlaw up front. They still got Fred Warner as a linebacker, but really don't have much in secondary. I think they're down to like street free agents at the cornerback position at this point. So I think this Rams offense is going to pick apart them through the air. I think Cooper Kupp's going to have a day. Robert Woods is going to have a day. Maybe Van Jefferson has a breakout performance. And then, we kind of saw Myles Gaskin kind of gash him all day too. So I don't know who is point which Rams running back is going to go off. But yeah, I think the Rams is going to find ways to move the ball throughout the day at a consistent rate compared to the 49ers offense. So I do think the Rams are going to win this one. But like I said, I think this could be one of those classic games, those classic NFC West type of games, because just when you think the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan will come up with something brilliant and get in the game. But I just don't trust defense right now, especially with all the injuries. So I am going to Rams in a close game, though, a shootout type of game. I think they win like a 35-31 type of win over the San Francisco 49ers.
Thank you,
move
Cody.
on to
Thank you
my
very
next
much
game. Now I'm going to move on to my next game. We actually got 2 Monday night games this week because of the Bills and KC's Thursday night game got postponed to Monday. And in case you guys lived underneath a rock, the Chiefs just better. They got Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell was released this week, as we all know, earlier by the Jets, and last night when all of Twitter was sleeping because whatever was going on with their platform, he was signed with the Chiefs. So that offense gets much. Probably going to use him in a variety of ways. Would not be surprised if we see him and CEH on the field at the same time. He's a great pass protector, and that line is kind of struggling this year at protecting Mahomes. So he's going to help give Mahomes more time and a different outlet, and he can split out wide as well because he's a pretty good receiver. So probably the best situation he could go to as far as him personally. But I wouldn't expect to see him in this Buffalo game.
He can't play in the Buffalo game. 5 days minimum. I was just getting ready to bring that up for fantasy guys. Yeah, so for sure.
Yeah. So there's the protocols for the pandemic is what Rob just said. They have to wait, they have to do 5 days, new teams, all that stuff. So no Bell this week, but he will be back, and he does get to face the Jets I think it's in November this year. And then Anthony Hitchens, he has not practiced with illness. And then Sammy Watkins has not practiced with a hamstring. On the Bills side, Dawson Knox, he has not practiced with a calf. Matt Milano has been limited with a pec. And Tre'Davious White has been limited with a back injury. Now this is kind of weird because both teams are coming off a loss. And so now both teams are facing a potential 2-game stretch where they lose games. Starting on the Buffalo side of the ball, had an up and down performance. They look like they're out of sync. I know I'm giving the Bills kind of a pass too, though, for this Tuesday night game. I mean, it was the second Tuesday night game in 70 years. And on top of that, the Bills were preparing for the Chiefs and the Titans at the same time because there was a potential the Titans game would have been canceled or postponed. So I think there's a good I think that it just was a recipe for them to actually be that bad. Plus a lot of guys were missing that game, but it does look like they're going to get John Brown back this week. They need Tre'Davious White because Josh Norman he's a thing of the past. And then Cam Lewis, who is out there, he's more of a practice squad guy. He made the prospect encyclopedia, but I believe he was like the number 22 on the list for Buffalo that I did. So they need him back in the secondary. Matt Milano is obviously a huge piece. But obviously this is going to be an angry KC Chiefs offense that's going to be attacking them. We kind of just saw the Titans move the ball pretty easily against them. I think KC is going to have their moments where they have explosive plays down the field, and they're going to find ways to get the ball in the end zone. The biggest key, though, will be the Bills' offense, though. They're going to have to – this is a Josh Allen moment. This is where he can prove himself, right? Can he go toe-to-toe with a Patrick Mahomes? Can he play mistake-free football? So that's going to be the key to success. Also, they're going to need to try to lean on that running game. They're going to need to get Devin Singletary going. Looks like Zach Moss is going to be back. They're going to maybe try to get him involved. Use Josh Allen to stretch those plays, stay in bounds, and count the clock. They need to take that recipe that the Raiders did and play a lot of ball control, take those deep shots, take opportunities when you can get them, and see if you can pull away with a win. Now, as far as this, I do think this is going to be an offensive shootout back and who has the ball. I'm going to say it's going to come down to who wins the turnover battle as well. But man, the Bills' defense it has not looked great the last couple weeks. I don't know if I can trust it. And then you're talking about an angry KC team. I'm gonna give the Kansas City a slight edge. It's gonna be whoever has the ball last. I could see Buffalo winning. I'm gonna say the Chiefs win by 1 point. I say they win like a what would be a good 1 point game? Like a 35-34 type of win. Like Buffalo's up 34-28, and they got to get a touchdown at the end of the game to get the win. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move on to this next game. We got Arizona traveling to Dallas to face the Cowboys. No news on any team. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. The Cowboys got a full practice, so unfortunately with the Dak injury, that ended his season, but the team's relatively healthy right now. Outside that offensive line, like all the key guys on the offensive line seasons are done. Then going to the Cardinals, in case you did miss, Chandler Jones is done for the season on their defense as well. So that's actually going to really hurt that defense for the rest of the year because they don't really have another consistent pass rusher. Kyle Pitts hasn't practiced this week with a hamstring. Dennis Gardeck with a foot. Rashard Lawrence with an elbow, and then Devin Kennard has been limited with a calf injury. And then I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. Let's start with the Cowboys offense. We kind of talked about it yesterday on the Fantasy Voyage. I don't think that Andy Dalton's going to cause a major drop-off in that offense. Obviously, they're going to have to change some things because he's not a mobile quarterback like Dak Prescott is. Ways to move the ball against the Cardinals defense. The Cardinals defense has a lot of work still to do. Now they're missing Chandler Jones, so I don't even know if they're going to be able to find ways to get a consistent pass rush on Andy Dalton. I think all three wide receivers could potentially have a good day. And then I think this is a perfect setup for Zeke to have a classic Zeke game and put the game on his back and go over like 150 scrimmage yards and get a couple touchdowns. Now, switching sides of the ball, Kyler Murray kind of had his bounce back game last week against the New York Jets. But again, it's the Jets, but he is going against a pretty bad. But it does sound like Leighton Vander Esch is trending to returning to the Cowboys. And if the Leighton Vander Esch does get activated and he is back on the Cowboys, really help out that defense. That defensive front is healthy. I think they're getting Gregory back this week, and I think I've heard he's been doing very well in practice. So if they get him back with Lawrence and Everson Griffin, the line I've been pretty since the summer. So I think they're actually going to get after Kyler Murray all day. They're going to cause him to force mistakes, miss his reads, and they're going to have opportunities that I think the Cardinals offense is going to have explosive plays, but I think they're going to have more stalled drives than explosive plays on Monday night. So I'm actually going to take the Cowboys. I think they're going to win. I actually think they can win by at least, I think they're going to win like a 28-21. I think they can win by a touchdown against this Cardinals team. This Cardinals team is very young and it still has a lot of work to do. on its roster. And I just really think that Chandler Jones injury significantly impacts their season because they don't have anybody that's going to get after the quarterback at all. So I am taking the Cowboys in that matchup. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap this up, guys. We got my apartment, knocking on my door when I asked them not to. So let me look at the question really quick. We got a Stephen P in the comments. Half PPR pick, 1 for wide receiver 2 and 1 for flex D. Okay. Moore, Claypool, Kenyon Drake, or Gallup. I'm assuming that Moore. Okay. Pick 1 for wide receiver 2, 1 for flex. Okay. I would go with Michael Gallup and DJ Moore. I think Chase Claypool, I think you're chasing the points at this point. I want to see if it's more consistent. But if Deontay Johnson does get ruled out, I would immediately play Claypool over Gallup, and I don't Drake at all. I don't think he's worth it. So if I was going to pick a wide receiver, I'd pick DJ Moore no matter what, and then I think I would slide Michael Gallup in the flex. But if Deontay Johnson gets ruled out, I'll do Claypool. Do you have any questions for me, Rob?
Yeah, man, real quick one. With the blow-up that we saw from Chase Claypool, and we've seen some good games out of these rookie wide receivers. You were stupid high on DK, and he turned into a superstar. So which of these rookie wide receivers really got you going this year? Which ones are your favorites that you think are those guys? Because like I said, we've had some killer performances this season from them.
Ooh, I mean, CeeDee Lamb's having a pretty good year. Man, who else is? Okay. Sorry, Rob. Just to update, guys. It does sound like the Colts Bengals test came back clean, so they're false positives. So it'd be nice if they just reported the confirmed positives. That's my little rant. No, Claypool. No, I think Claypool's going to be a monster, man. Like his athleticism. Jerry Jeudy, I think we're going to see him eventually break out as well. But yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb, he's been looking pretty good. And then if Henry Ruggs can, I think we kind of saw Henry Ruggs be a potential Tyreek Hill for the Raiders. So we got to see if that's going to be a consistent in-week, in-out performance, because I don't know if that's going to be very volatile for the Raiders. But yeah, a number of guys are consistently performing. And you got to also think, like I mentioned, Denzel Mims is coming back. Jalen Reagor, we'll get him back at some point. There's a number of guys that are injured too, as well. So
yeah, this group of receivers is absolutely nasty, dude. This class was sick.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead, though, do a little promotion, Prospect Encyclopedia. I was kind of talking about it. Normally I give out the Prospect Encyclopedia Player of Thursday Night Football. No game, so I couldn't do that. This great book is only $35. Go to blitzlytics.com/shop to order it. You can also get the PDF for $15 and the individual team PDFs for $5. If you like this video, please hit like. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know when any of our shows do go live. But as I always say, the audio ends up on the podcast, the Blitzlytics Podcast Network, or on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, you name it, you can find us there. So you're always able to get our shows at any point in the future. And then you can always find me on the Football Happy Hour every Tuesday at 9 p.m. as long as we don't have any future Tuesday games this season. You'll get me, Rob, Roy Countryman, and Jack Bourgeois. And then as well as the Fantasy Voyage, me and Rob is our fantasy show. We usually we go on Wednesdays around this time, that 10 to 11 hour, but we can adjust if needed. But yeah, so that's the show. I'm going to get going so we don't have a knock and you guys have to hear my dog. Apologize about that. I swear I confirmed with my apartment manager that they wouldn't come until noon, and they came at 11:15. Always great, right? But you guys enjoy week 6 of this football season. Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.